and where you were born. Okay? All right. Okay. The following is an interview with Irving Carlson. It's being conducted on Monday, June 28th, 2010 at Grace Point Crossing in Cambridge, Minnesota. Irving, can you tell us your full name, your date of birth, and your birthplace?
Irving Leonard Carlson, born May 23rd, 1920, in, I believe it was Graham, if I'm mistaken, Minnesota.
Okay. And where did you grow up? You grew up on the farm?
I grew up on a home farm close to Dalbo, 2 miles the way the crow flies, southeast of Dalbo.
What was it like on the farm when you were a kid? What were your crops and what was...
Well, we raised potatoes mostly. Potatoes was the main crop back when I grew up. A lot of hard work.
Did you plant them by hand?
Planted them by hand, and we had to weed them and spray them for bugs and everything else.
How many acres?
We used to have about 25 acres of potatoes.
And where did they go? When you harvested them, where did they?
In the fall, we would put them in our root cellar, and in the spring, they hauled them to town. Stanchfield got most of them, I think it was, if I'm mistaken. Mm-hmm. Warehouses in Stanchfield. I had a potato buyer there.
Mm-hmm. So did you have, when did you used horses, right, for the crops?
We used horses until 1946. We had our first used tractor. It was during the war, and then you had to have a permit or something to get them. And they had tractors, but they wouldn't let us buy a brand new one.
Were you glad to see that first tractor?
Yes. Well, I loved horses. I didn't mind driving horses.
Is it really hard to drive horses?
Well, no.
You know what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, and the horses know what you're doing too. That's right. More or less.
Did you have favorite horses? Do you remember their names?
Yeah, we had one we called Fly. I could do anything I wanted to with her. She was, we used that walking cultivator, and I used her all the time. Mm-hmm. And then my sisters were home one day, and they were going to cultivate with her, and I had another horse, and she wouldn't walk for them. We had to change back.
Mm-hmm. So did you have cows on your farm?
Yes, we had 7 to 10 cows when I grew up.
7 to 10?
Yeah.
So you used them for milk, right?
Yes,
we
used them for milk.
Uh-huh.
Then we had to separate then, and you couldn't sell milk then in those days.
Mm-hmm. Did you milk them by hand then?
Definitely, yeah, milked them by hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did you have any fun when you were a kid?
No way.
The ice skating in the wintertime? Did you?
We went skiing and skating and tobogganing and whatever. Mm-hmm. We didn't make our own fun those days.
Mm-hmm. What school did you go to?
A little country school in Springvale Township. District 44 was the number of it. Mm-hmm. We walked a mile through the woods and back to get to it and back.
Mm-hmm. And it was cold there in the wintertime, huh?
It was cold.
Yeah. Potbelly stove in the middle?
Potbelly by in the one end, and stovepipe ran the length of the room. Mm-hmm. And then the floor was heaving. So the last years my sister went to school, she had chilblains on her heels from being in school. It was that cold in the schoolhouse.
Wow. So Your grandparents came from Sweden, right?
They came from Sweden, yes.
Mhm. So did you speak the language? Did you learn the language, or did you? Some?
I can speak a little Swedish, but when I grew up, the folks, they talked Swedish between them when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about. But it didn't take long before we knew what they were talking about. We got to understand them pretty good.
So what was Christmas like in a Swedish home?
It was, well, good. Christmas Eve was a big evening and when I grew up. And then you looked at Christmas morning in church at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then we walked to church. That was a mile and a half. We walked.
Mm-hmm. What did you eat for Christmas
We had
dinner?
Meatballs and sweet lutefisk and rice and mashed potatoes,
Mm-hmm.
more or less.
Sounds good. Yeah. So how many years did you farm? A lot, huh?
Oh, I farmed up until I was 70 years, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Now, yeah, and how did you meet your wife? You were telling me about.
Well, she was a neighbor of ours out there.
Okay.
And we went to grade school. I mean, she was in the same school as I was, in the grade school. Went to the same church and confirmation.
Mm-hmm. What church were you married in?
Salem Lutheran in Dalbo.
Okay. That was a big part of your life too, huh?
Yes.
They had a festival or something?
Oh yeah, Midsummer Festival was a terrific day out there. If you had hay down, you didn't go do any haying, you went to church and took part in the celebration there.
Mm-hmm. Great, yeah. And then, what was your wife's name?
Eileen,
Eileen, okay. And then you have 2 kids?
yeah, I have a son and a daughter.
And their names?
My son's name is Luther and my daughter's name is Rebecca or Becky.
Mm-hmm. Great, yeah. Now I hear you took up a hobby after you, when you reached about 70, you decided to start something new, right?
Well, I had something, they didn't want me on the tractors and I'd have something to do, so I took up carving, a little carving.
Mm-hmm.
I made a few pieces.
You have some beautiful pieces in your room here. What's the room number?
237.
237. If you haven't seen the carvings in 237, you need to stop by. It's really, they're horses.
Yeah, I have a 6-horse hitch.
6-horse hitch.
And I have 5 on a gang plow.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunately able to find a fellow that made the plow. I didn't make the plow, but he made a metal plow exactly like the bigger ones that they used.
Mm-hmm.
And I have five horses on that.
Mm-hmm. It's impressive. They're very detailed. It's really beautiful. Yeah. And I think you have a special object. Oh, in your pocket, you have a special object you were going to talk about with us, talking about treasures today. Tell us about this and hold it up for the camera and everybody to see.
I have a watch here. My uncle gave it to me. He was in the hospital in the cities. He'd hurt himself at work, and my mother took us kids went down there to see him. And this is the first thing he did. He gave me his watch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's an Elgin watch.
Hmm. How old were you when you were there?
I was about 5 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you've had that a long time. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. So do you have any advice for us? Any wisdom, any lessons you've learned through the years?
Nothing that we have to work hard to keep going.
Good advice. Work hard and keep going, huh?
Yeah.
Good, good. Well, is there anything else you want to add, or
No,
ready to wrap up?
that's pretty well, it takes care of it, I think.
Yeah, good job. So, thank you for sharing your story with us today. Yeah.